I am going to record. I just turned on the recording for tonight's session, so we'll make that available over the next few days. And without further ado, though, I think I will just jump right in because we do have a full agenda tonight. So this graphic kind of, we think, speaks well to the nature of what the Planet Project is all about. And it's also sort of the theme of tonight's meeting is to accelerate the shift to planetary culture. So it's really about cultural shift is the essence of the Planet Project. And the nature of this shift, we will touch on briefly tonight. It is explored in depth in Roger's most recent book, Emerging World, The Evolution of Consciousness and the Future of Humanity. But we really see that's the essence of what the Planet Project is about. This is our first Zoom event of the year. So again, just want to welcome everybody for joining us. The agenda, I'll go through quickly. We did a brief welcome. Well, as I say, we will do introductions from everybody who's on the call, but I wanted to defer that till a little bit later in the agenda to make sure people that joined late had a chance to hear everyone's introductions. We'll talk about what it means to be a culture shapers and really the extraordinary opportunity that's in front of us and available to us. And then we'll do a bit of an experiential exercise and invite you to sort of discover what's emerging in your heart. We'll talk about the Planet Project, how we can support you. And that's going to include just an introduction to and a tour of our website and our Planet community. We really want to make sure that you have the opportunity to get the most out of what the Planet Project has to offer. So, you know, a key goal for tonight's meeting is to help you understand what tools are available, help you get a bit comfortable with them. And to deepen your comfort level, we'll invite you to take the plunge of our 14-day challenge. We originally called it a New Year's challenge. Not sure if we can still call it that since we're now into February, but that's just it's just kind of a fun exercise. There's no prizes. It's just intrinsic motivation, but we'll hope you'll feel drawn to go ahead and participate in the challenge, and then we'll wrap it up. I do want to continue to encourage you to ask questions and let us know where you've joined from in the chat. I'll try and get to questions at different points in tonight's event. And if we don't get to them in the event, then we'll be sure to follow up after the event. So I want to start just with sort of a statement of where we think we're at. It's probably no surprise to anybody on this call that we're facing a number of serious crises. The Earth is in serious degradation of our on a number of fronts, and we see these global crises, and it's important to embrace them and not be in denial about them. It's important really to feel our feelings about that, just, you know, the heartbreak of what we're witnessing sometimes. And at the same time, we think there's a cause for hope. There's a cause for hope because there is, despite climate change, the polarization of wealth, the degradation of topsoil, the erosion of dialogue and democracy, the sixth mass extinction event that is creating huge biodiversity loss. Despite all of that, we do think there's hope because this is an unprecedented opportunity, really for the first time in history. And a few quotes here. Hunter Levin said, "We are the first generation to have dominion over the earth and likely the last to be able to save it." Louis Herman, who might be joining us tonight. I love this quote. "Today, the very extremity of our global crises creates an extraordinary opportunity for creative transformation." And the brilliant futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard noted that every evolutionary leap is preceded by crisis, chaos, and breakdown. And we are part of a generation that for the first time in history is capable of destroying itself as a species or consciously participating in our own evolutionary transformation. And then it's that opportunity to participate in this transformation that we think is the huge source of hope, and it is the focus of the Planet Project. And I want to invite you all to feel into that a bit. So we're going to do a brief experiential exercise as you just sort of contemplate the beauty of this blue dot, this planet Earth, Pachamama. We do see this evolutionary shift in culture. At its heart is a shift in consciousness. And it's consciousness that emerges from the individual. And so instead of thinking about it, which we often do, I want to kind of invite you into a brief meditation. It'll be a bit of a guided journey. And ask that you notice what's emerging in you. What is rising you in this moment? So take a few breaths and just take in the image of this beautiful earth. If you're comfortable, close your eyes and move your conscious awareness to your heart center. See a glowing sphere of light centered in your heart as your breath pulses through you. Feel the light as the illumination of your conscious awareness, and come into complete felt presence with the here and now. Expand your conscious awareness to encompass all of the beings on this call. Without losing our individuality, feel our shared connection as we experience ourselves as one organism. Staying in the present moment, move your conscious attentions to the Big Bang, the great flaring forth. Feel the evolutionary impulse activating as love creates the universe. The love that exists both inside and outside of space and time. The love that gives rise to matter and energy as a means of expression, to express love in space and time. Feel the emergence of differentiated forms of the one, quarks, atoms, molecules, gas clouds, dust, stars, galaxies. Feel the evolutionary impulse as it animates each quantum leap in complexity, cooperation, and consciousness as love creates the universe. You are that impulse. You are that love. Feel the impulse encode information in self-replicating, mutating genes that animate organisms engaging in a dance of cooperation and competition. Microbes, multicellular life, plant life, animal life. Bring your attention to the emergence of thought, language, culture. For hundreds and perhaps thousands of years, certain deeply held, largely invisible cultural assumptions have held sway. Assumptions about the nature of reality, the purpose of the universe, the meaning of knowledge and how it can be acquired, the relationship of people to nature and people to people. These assumptions have given rise to civilization as we know it. Scientific and technological advances, expansions of knowledge and forms of artistic expression. Systems for marshaling resources to meet diverse needs. Governance structures that organize power, authority, and decision-making. Infrastructures and markets for creating and delivering food, water, energy, products, and services. Feel your gratitude towards all of the evolutionary changes these cultural assumptions have engendered, while at the same time accepting that they have outlived their usefulness. They have become a source of suffering and conflict. Humanity is creating a planetary crisis for itself and many other forms of life. This is not a problem. It is simply a process unfolding as love creates the universe. Yet it is time to let them go, to allow the emergence of new ways of being in the world, new planetary organisms informed by different assumptions, different structures. You are in the extraordinary and unprecedented position of being able to consciously participate in the shift from material culture to planetary culture, a shift at global scale that is already underway. Return the focus of your attention to those of us on this call. We have been activated by the evolutionary impulse to bring to light the cultural shifts animating the next stage of evolution. It is our turn on the spiral. We are that impulse. We are that love. Take a few moments to feel what is wanting to emerge in and through you from your deep connection to the evolutionary impulse. Return your attention to the glow of light in your own heart. Feel how your heart contains the fractal expression of the entire sphere of space and time. You are complete. You are loved. You are love. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes. And as you return to the room and take in the image again, I'll open it up for sharing and invite you, if you have something that you felt did emerge for you during the course of that meditation, very briefly, 1 to 2 sentences, if you could just sort of share what that is. And if you'd like to type it into the chat, you can do it that way. If you'd prefer to say it out loud, we'd love to hear that as well. So whatever feels comfortable, most comfortable for you.
Gentleman that I know who taught about the Gaia theory mused that we have a feeling, a sense of needing to excrete, and that there's a mirror image feeling on the side of the rest of life of a thirst for the materials and water that we'd be excreting. So there's always a back and forth feeling there.
Appreciate that reciprocal flow. Eric, did you want to share something? Thanks, Martin.
Sure, I just put it in the chat that emerging for me is just a building of focus and determination to bring just a foreground positive news. And I recognized 40 years ago doing activist work that you can't just feed people all the doom and gloom. People get immobilized, paralyzed, they can't act. You have to give them positive things to do. And that was 40 years ago, and I'm still trying to implement that lesson. And Rebecca Solnit's piece that was noted in a recent Planet Project newsletter, we listened to it tonight because The Guardian lets you do that, and it is fantastic. So empowering and detailed about renewables and climate. That 20 years ago, we didn't have the options we do now. It's really moving fast, and you have to make it a part-time job to seek out the good news and understand it.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Eric. And certainly that's our goal. Yes, go ahead.
What I would say, Eric, in response is that it makes me feel a deepened comfort to see a group like the Planet Project group that is working in communion with each other or one another to do something like that. And I feel like it's easy for me to feel sort of this simple heart connection to people and animals and plants and everything on this planet. But it's also very easy for me to reach a place of desperation because I've not been associated with any kind of group like this. And I'm in awe and I'm thankful that people are doing things that are meaningful and they're going to make a difference. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge my beautiful sister, Meredith. Thanks for sharing, Meredith. I didn't plant her. But thank you for that.
You and Brian both have given me hope.
Would anyone else like to share in briefly?
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. Thank you. So we are trying to accentuate the positive opportunities without losing, again, without putting rose-colored glasses on the depth of the crises we face. If that's all we contemplate is everything that's going wrong, then it does leave us in a state of despair. And in this movement, in this great opportunity that faces us, we feel everyone has a role to play. And everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses and life situations and so forth. So each of us needs to find our own path. And so I just wanted to include this note from Carlos Castaneda's teaching of Don Juan, because I think it's so spot on that when finding our path, the most important thing is to find a path with heart. And perhaps I'd invite people to determine if the extent, feel into whether you feel resonance with the path. But we think we've found that people attracted to the planet community tend to be seeking a path that does have heart, that is effective, that addresses the root causes, a sense that we're not just treating symptoms, but maybe we're getting at the root causes of our meta crisis. And a path that does play to our own strengths and weaknesses and our own life situation as individuals. And furthermore, we're looking for a path of collective action. So it's, amplify our agency by, as Meredith said, working in communion with others. And we see that growing via small, both physical and virtual circles, where a sense of community and trust can be built through those relationships. And that provides the basis to form cooperative networks at global scale via a network of communities, where that trust can be scaffolded between these communities, and where diverse evolutionary experiments in planetary culture can be conducted. Does that sound like you? Does that sound like a path you're looking for? I welcome agreement or disagreement with that statement. One of our core principles is we don't have all the answers, and we definitely don't think we own this movement by any stretch of the imagination. We are just seekers like everybody else. But we do seek for these messages that can be sort of aspirational North Stars, or can be these attractors that bond us together. And that gets us to maybe a characterization of how we think of the Planet Project. So I mentioned we're not the owners of this movement. One of the metaphors we've been adopting recently, to sort of as we feel into our own role in this great unfolding, this great planetary movement, is our role is to be travel agents. So we got to have the realm of material culture, where humans have lived for the last 5,000 years. And what's emerging is planetary culture. This is the great evolutionary shift in consciousness that we see emerging now that gives us such hope. And so we see that a role we could play would be as sort of travel agents. And what do? Well, they might help you discover, hey, there's some cool things to see. There's cool people that have already set up residence, if you will, in this realm of planetary culture. And some of those people are on the call tonight. But we want to, we think one of the things we can do to be of service to the unfolding of this movement is to help you discover the change agents who are already imagining and realizing aspects of positive culture. And already you see these sort of lights sparking in the realm of planetary culture. And then, as Eric was saying, we want to highlight the videos and blogs and books and films and various forms of cultural expression that are giving voice to planetary culture, that are providing evidence the shift is actually happening, and which deepen our understanding of what planetary culture means. And you'll see the connections between these dots because we also feel that we can't do this alone. Can we help discover and co-create deep community? And that's a goal of both our planet community, our online community, but also through planet circles, which include face-to-face meetings where much richer, deeper human interactions are possible, and also virtual circles. And we also seek to amplify the agency of those that are in residence in the realm of planetary culture, that are giving voice to these expressions of planetary culture. We want to amplify the agency through Planetary Alliance. And at the time we put these slides together, that was planned for 2023, but I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to the second member of the Planetary Alliance tonight. In a moment, we'll get there and have several other conversations already happening about other allies, just as we do for learning journeys. So these are deeper explorations over maybe a series of weeks into the realm of planetary culture. And we have an example of that we'll talk about. So collectively, hopefully that gives you a sense of the ways in which we endeavor to foster the accelerated emergence of this planetary culture, to accelerate this shift to a world that's focused on well-being for all life. I'm going to pause there to invite reaction. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat or share them with us. Ah, yes, Cheryl shared an organization of AS. Yeah, they are wonderful. Everyone should check it out. Well, we'll talk about ways that oh, I guess, Eric, you brought that in, and Cheryl was reacting to it. Yeah, we'll talk about exactly what you can do with that kind of information, because we do think that the people that are in the movement, you all have others that have inspired you, whether they be change agents or expressions of positive culture. So it's through our own sharing with each other that we can quickly amplify those messages and quickly highlight a broader and broader range of change agents. And so with that, I'm going to switch to sort of a tour of a couple of resources that we offer. One is our website, and the sort of give you a quick introduction of some of the capabilities. Most of you probably have already seen them, but you may not be aware of some of the aspects there. Some of the ways that we think the website can help support you in the path you seek. And also our planetary community, which is an online community. You'll notice the look and feel is quite different on the right as on the left. So it may not have been clear before that we have a website in the community, and most of the time you don't have to care which is which, but sometimes it matters. So I at least wanted to mention that. So with that, I'm going to switch gears.
Hello, Oak.
Welcome, Oak. This might be a good time. I promised that we would have a chance to do introductions. And so I think this might be a good chance. You'll have to unmute yourselves if you're already muted. But yeah, why not? I'll just open it up. There's no requirement, but love to hear some of you check in and just give us just a very brief introduction of where you're coming in from. For tonight's meeting, we don't really have time to go in depth with, I think we have 21 people on the call. But one of the things I will mention is this is our first Zoom event of 2023, but it's by no means our last Zoom event. We do see reaching out via Zoom is a good way of promoting interaction. So in upcoming events, they're going to be much more interactive, and there'll be much more room for just free-form flow, conversation, and sharing between our members. But I do want to take a moment and give everybody a chance to introduce themselves. So I'll just open up and just chime in any order that you choose.
I'll jump in. I'm here primarily because of my association with Roger, but I also have met and am somewhat conversant with Bob Carmichael. So I'm looking forward to continuing those connections in my life. And I want to thank you for an inspirational introduction.
Thank you, Larry. And Larry, where are you calling in from?
Pueblo, Colorado.
Pueblo,
Just down
Colorado.
the road from you all.
Yeah, welcome.
In a neighborhood that could go either way. We've got freeway invasion and heavy traffic moving in and things like that. So I'm agitating for a meeting with the mayor.
Thank you for that. Who else would like to chime in and introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from.
So I'm Russ Janae from Arizona. Cheryl and I are in Hawaii for the winter. At any rate, I'm an astronomer, and my viewpoint is quite interested in what's happening. We've discovered lots of planets now, so it's kind of interesting to watch the local inhabitants of this little planet around a G2 type star working on the problems. So I
Can I
hope I
ask
Put
you
it
a
in
question?
context, doesn't it? Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Carmichael? I think I've mistaken you for who is possibly your son, a man named Bob Carmichael.
That is, yeah, hi, this is Bob Carmichael, and you're referring to Jesse Carmichael, I believe.
Okay. If you're the same Bob that I've known from El Dorado days, you sure look
Yes,
different.
yes, of course, yeah, and that's, okay, fine. I'm sorry. You look too young for me to know you, but that's okay.
Oh, well, you're a hair older than me, but not too much.
Oh, okay, cool. I guess that would segue into why I'm here. If you don't mind, I've got a project that I'm working on, a couple of things. One is American football, and games are culture, and consciousness, culture is consciousness. And so I'm trying to get a series off the ground to look at the games we play. That's what's occupying my agenda primarily these days. I also have a little link called carbonlessday.com that I'm trying to connect with B-Cycles in the city of Boulder to try and encourage bike riding and, losing our carbon footprints as fast as we can. And of course, I've known Roger Briggs since he was a young guy, and I put him in front of the camera on 3 different occasions because he was one of the greatest athletes I'd ever seen. So I'm following his lead and hopefully giving him a little bit of belay now and then. So that's about it.
Thank you, Bob. Oak, I think you had your hand up a moment ago. I'd love to have you introduce Oak as a treasured member of the Boulder community.
Thank you. It's because I'm so old. 94. I'm the founder of Thorn Ecological Institute, which is now called Thorn Nature Experience. And we connect kids to nature, environmental education for kids, including preschool kids, get them out and connected early. So that's it.
Thank you, Oak.
And I've known Roger a long time.
Thank you.
Cheryl.
Oak. That's what we need to get children involved. Thank you. Really.
Amen.
I'm Cheryl Janae, the other half of the Russell Janae contingent. I am very proud to have published Roger's Journey to Civilization and Scott Brown's Active Peace. And I teach world religions and introduction to philosophy at Cuesta College.
Thank you, Cheryl. Welcome.
I'll follow that up. I'm following Cheryl. I'm Dwight Collins, chairman of the College Education Foundation, of which Cheryl is the managing editor. And I'm pleased to say that indeed we published the two books, Active Peace and Journey to Civilization. And I'm very proud of that. Pleased to meet the two gentlemen again. It's been a long time, and to get to know what's about more deeply about the Planetary Project. I see some parallel with another initiative that I follow called it's by the author Dwayne Elgin, who wrote a book called Choosing Earth. And he has a similar theme to your accelerating a shift in consciousness to the planetary consciousness in his what he calls the Great Transition, or an uplift in his books. And he has a monthly group that meets, which I've been a part of for some time. So it's a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you all.
We'll get Dwayne connected in.
Good.
Yeah, I think I'd be a great candidate for an ally.
Great, yeah, great connection there.
Lewis, I noticed you joined. Would you like to give us a brief introduction?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, really glad to be here. Love your introduction. Really inspirational. This whole initiative is super encouraging. I'm a big picture political philosopher in Hawaii, University of Hawaii, West Oahu. I was introduced to Roger and Planet Project by Cheryl Janae, who I've known for years. We've worked together, had regular meetings on a number of projects, helped and inspired one another along the way.
Yes.
I've got a couple of years ago, with the help of my buddy Andy Hoffman, who's here as well, I founded an institute for a new political cosmology, bit of a mouthful, but along converging lines of Planet Project, providing a model for a way of catalyzing this transformation in consciousness and culture that Steve was talking about, which we call the Truth Quest, a set of practices. Yeah, in 2013, I published Future Primal, which was a sort of a big picture look at how we got into this mess and how we can get out of it, a sort of an overview, kind of encyclopedic work, from which the Institute took off. Really glad to be here. Thank you. Good to meet you folks and see some familiar faces. Dwight, it's been a while.
Yes, I sure have.
I don't know if you remember me. We met very briefly in Hawaii.
Sure do. We sure did.
Yeah, one of Cheryl's conferences, and then again.
Sure did.
Right.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Lewis. And I do want to acknowledge the debt of gratitude I have to Lewis. He, as part of the Truth Quest mandala, he one aspect of that is this notion of having a big picture, a big narrative. And we were chatting about what the big narrative of the Planet Project was, and he's the one that really put his finger on that notion that it's this unprecedented opportunity that we face. And I think you saw the quote I included from Lewis on that slide. But yeah, that really resonated with us, that sense that we can jointly participate in this evolutionary transformation. So thank you for that, Lewis.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Who else would like to jump in and say hi?
I'd like to follow up from Lewis's comments about the big picture and yours, Steve. My name's Eric Dowd. I'm here in Boulder, and the people I know here in terms of networking are Roger, with whom I started climbing in 1985. Our family got here in 1970. Ogle Thorne, I went to his nature education class when I was in junior high school. And Bob Carmichael also known, and then Gene Dempsey. So in 1983, I wrote a paper for anthropology class called A Future Biography. You imagine you're 65 years old and you're your best friend writing about what's happened in your life. And the big picture I saw by that year, which is 2028, unimaginably far in the future when you're 20 years old, I wrote that there were now 1.7 billion people who had overtly signed up to be part of ESS living systems, equitable, sustainable, satisfying living systems. And in all the more modern terminology, a just transition from fossil fuels to efficiency and renewables. That's the big picture that I've been working with all these decades, and that's my life's mission, is helping facilitate that transition. So a bit long of an intro, but certainly the big picture, I'm all for it. And back to Rebecca Solnit's piece, she really helps with that. We have to tell the right stories in order to help ourselves and everybody else.
Very good.
This is John and Marilyn Kaiser in Oregon.
Welcome.
We had the privilege of getting an early look at Roger's thinking and his book. We had a little focus group among some of our friends out here in Oregon and Washington, and had a great discussion. I guess it would have been a year and a half ago or so. And so we got excited about the planetary movement. We've always had the principles of that thinking in our mind with our lives as educators, and Marilyn working in the business world and working for the governor. And I was a college president. And I guess our one greatest love since we retired is working in the conservation movement and starting a local conservation group here in Central Oregon, where we try to monitor the health of a couple of rivers that are near Bend, Oregon. And it's great to hear this other thinking, and a privilege to have been involved at the ground level.
I'd just like to add that we're both CU alumni for all of our degrees.
All right.
So
like that Boulder connection.
We loved Boulder back in the day, but we've been gone a long time. We've been married 53 years, and
wow,
we've gone along a lot of different places, but we call Oregon home now.
Thanks for joining us tonight. That's great. We have about 3 or so minutes. No obligation, but if there's anybody that hasn't spoken and would like to briefly introduce yourself, please let us know where you're coming from.
I'll say hi. My name's Andy Hoffman. I live in Kahlutin on the island of Oahu. It's the windward side, and it's very beautiful here. It's really a tropical rainforest. I love plants. I've done some grafting for avocado trees. I worked with Louis on his book, Future Primal, and I'm working with him now on the Institute for a New Political Cosmology. We call it political, but you could say cultural, you could say consciousness, you could say human, you could substitute any number of terms for that. And I'm especially interested in researching the various crises that we face. And I'm afraid that very few people realize the actual severity of these crises. And also in researching ways to change culture and come to terms with these crises and have a really human life, and not just a human life, but a planetary life where the good of the whole and all living creatures and all life support systems are the number one priority.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andy. Thanks for joining. And thanks for bringing in that, what is perhaps the core feature of planetary culture is the recognition that we are all interrelated, interdependent, interconnected. All life is. So thanks for bringing that in.
Here, here.
So I went through the, kind of our goals as the travel agent for the planetary realm, planetary cultural realm. What I'd like to do is now just take a quick tour through our website and our planet community to show you how we sort of manifest some of those goals, how it is that we have been working to try and make those real. So I'll start by going to our website. This is the homepage on our website. Planetproject.io is the URL. And I assume most people have probably seen this. It's got a lot of information about how we got here and what our strategies are and so forth. I'm not going to go through all of that. Feel free to navigate about at your leisure. I will highlight, however, the vision and values and principles, because, I mentioned we don't feel like we have all the answers and nobody owns the planet movement. But we do think that what binds us is this sort of aspirational devotion, if you will, to a set of core values and principles, to vision, values, and principles. Our core vision is that we imagine a civilization that empowers all people to thrive and contribute in a culture of sacred regard for all life, as Andy was saying, all life and the planet. And we've identified a set of core values. These are still in a stage of evolution, and in fact, part of the process of the planet communities to help us co-create the values and principles that we really do feel are drawing us together. That's sort of that North Star, or that big narrative that draws us into alignment, into collaborative alignment. So these are our vision, values, and principles. You can find them under the About section, the first thing, vision, values, and principles. And yeah. So I mentioned in our role as travel agents, helping you discover who are the others that are also inhabiting, taking up residence within this planetary realm. And so we've built a database. We're in the progress of building a database of what we call aligned change agents. These would be people and organizations in the world that, from our perspective, feel aligned to the values and vision that we just talked about. And to make it easier for you to find agents that you might be interested in, we give you different filtering options. So we have some categories that you could check. If you wanted to look at environmental stewardship, for example, you could click the environmental stewardship. We can also filter by functional sector. If you're looking for organizations, you could check the organization. So this is then, we'll filter the results here. Each one of these each little section here refers to one change agent. that satisfies those filter criteria. If you don't see someone, like if Dwayne Elgin weren't here, or another one of your favorite change agents, you can suggest new resources in the Planet community by clicking here, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment.
I just spent a little time perusing this, Steve, and it is mind-boggling. I just, yeah, to see so many organizations in so many categories. I just looked at the voting one. It was like 20 organizations working on voting.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. And yeah, that's kind of the idea, is we do think, as you know, going back to that Barbara Marx Hubbard quote of every evolutionary leap has been preceded by crisis, chaos, and breakdown, and spontaneous change emerges in response to these crises. And that's what's happening. It's already happening all around the world, but we don't always have visibility on that, right? So the whole idea of this change agent is to help people discover the many groups and individuals that are out there doing wonderful work on the forefront of change. Yeah.
Will you eventually have links to link out to these organizations?
These are all links.
Because I didn't.
Yeah, I just noticed here that there's some sort of warning. I think we had as always happens with a demo, it seems like we had a bug here tonight. So for some reason, these links aren't working, but
Okay.
yeah, these are all links, and I don't know why they're not working. I don't know if
I thought it was strange. They looked like links, but they just didn't work.
Yeah. Huh. So I'm sorry I can't demonstrate that, but yes, thank you for bringing that up. These really are links. Don't know why they're not working tonight.
And presumably into a new window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the same token, we have this other tab over here. So before I was on the Change Agents tab, now I'm in this tab called Positive Culture. And so what do we mean by positive culture? Well, as I mentioned, the big picture of change is that we're in this macro shift from 5,000 years of material culture that is characterized by the notion of the world consists of separate objects, a sort of a mechanistic paradigm with domination hierarchies and extreme polarization. We're shifting to a planetary culture that features connectedness and wholeness, sacred regard for life. And so what we call positive culture are any books or films or social media posts or articles, blogs, podcasts, etc., that both provide evidence that this shift is in progress and provide, reportage, if you will, on what's happening in the world of positive culture that demonstrates it is really in progress. And so in this database, we've added a few filters here that allow you to sort of start with, where are you at today? So the idea is each of us is bringing our own selves to this process. And on any given moment or day, you might be biased to act. You say, I just want to do something. I want to find something that I can do. And so by clicking act, that will narrow the results here to those expressions of positive culture that are focused on action. And you can also, maybe I just have a few minutes. I don't have time for a lot here. So I could put in, maybe less than 10 minutes. And this will narrow it down. I guess we just have one that gives you something you can act on in less than 10 minutes. If I add 30 minutes, maybe we pick up a few more. So these are suggestions for action. So like this, if the link worked, can't believe that isn't working tonight. But if the link worked, it would take you to a wonderful video that you can watch in 30 minutes or less, to where a waste expert gives you all sorts of insight on how you can do a better job with your garbage, including how to reduce it. So there's filters, again, based on what you want to do, how much time you have, the same categories as we saw in the change agents, and then also you can filter by format. So if you're particularly looking for an article or a podcast, you can pick, if you're looking for films, what have you, you can pick those and narrow that. So that's another way to discover what's happening in the realm of positive culture. Brian, I think you raised your hand. Chime in if you had
I
a question.
did. Oh, I did. And this question, it deals with, it looks like there's a search window just to the right of the red bar there. It's small on my screen, so I can't read it. Is that capable of doing a keyword search?
Yeah, thanks.
That's
Thanks
what
for
that
bringing
is?
that in, Brian. Yeah, you can type any text in there. Like, for example, I just typed in Elgin, and look at that. Choosing Earth is a book that we have as an expression of positive culture. And there's also a Choosing Earth film, also by Dwayne Elgin. So yes, you can, in addition to checking the boxes, if you know something about if I just put in Earth, for example, then it will, it should, let me try that again, Earth. Yeah, we get the same Choosing Earth, but we also get things like Deep Time Walk and Donut Economics and Earth TV and so forth. So yes, you can search via text. Thanks for bringing that in.
Great.
And as we saw on the change agents, we know there's resources that should be in this database, but we haven't captured them. This is where you come in. This is where you can help us enrich this curated database by suggesting new resources. So click here if you have some ideas about a book or a podcast or a movie or an article or what have you that you feel should be added. And with that, I think I'd like to mention just a couple of other things before we go to the community. So the website is kind of a one-way feed, right? We're sharing information with you. We're giving you these tools where you can search for information. And the community is the place of interaction. The community is where we can really interact with one another. So I'll be going there next. But I think somebody just raised their hand. I don't have it in front of me, but I saw a hand raised. So whoever raised their hand, if you wanted to ask a question or make a comment, jump in, feel free.
I keep getting a thumbs up on my thing that I'm not asking for. So
okay, no worries.
It just pops up.
So a couple of other things I'll mention here on the website before we go over to the community. There's this campaigns. So these are unified actions. And we've identified a few campaigns. We started with the plastics campaign, a democracy and voting campaign before the last election. We had a campaign to get out the vote. We're joined tonight by Martin Ogle, and I'm going to give him a chance to speak to us a little bit more in a moment. But he is the originator of the all careers approach to basically help our high school students in particular understand that green sustainability is not limited to specifically, quote, green jobs, that in fact, every career, all careers are of need of that sensibility. And he brings that in. He's running a contest right now, and we've challenged our Planet community members to help make that contest a success. And we had a very successful event last month. And as I say, I'm going to introduce Martin in a moment and have him tell you a little bit more about what's going on there. But that's an example of one of our campaigns. Each of these is associated with a page. So if you click on it, a couple of months ago, Roger wrote a wonderful blog on turning inward. And so this isn't really an action out in the world. It's not so much about doing, it's more about being. But it offers a number of resources for contemplative practices, inspiring teachers and organizations. So we think it's important that we not only address the outward action in the world, but at its heart, since the evolution of culture is, as someone said, culture really is a manifestation of consciousness, and consciousness starts with us as individuals. And so we also want to emphasize that sort of inward deepening a sense of being. If you're just wondering what kind of actions can I take, we have this Take Action tab in our website that says, well, one of the things you can do is go to the community. If you haven't already subscribed to our newsletter, I encourage you to do that. If you would like to volunteer with the Planet Project, we'd love to have your help. And if you're moved to donate, we welcome donations. Though our model is not predicated, many nonprofits rely on sort of constant fundraising campaigns among their members. And that's not really our model. We've benefited from a few larger donations, and that's kind of more the model to sustain us, so we don't have to constantly have our hand out to our community members. But we do welcome donations, and it does help us do the work that you're seeing here tonight and continue to expand our curated databases, continue to build out the community, sponsor more circles, more campaigns, and so forth. Every month we try and do a blog. And so if you go to the blog tab here, you'll see this is the history of all the blogs we've published to this point. Most of them authored by Roger, so they're excellent. Yeah, and so that's kind of a tour of our website. There's a community button up here, and that's a quick navigation into the community. There's lots of ways to getting in the Planet community, but that's one quick way to do it is just to click on community, and that will take you directly to our online community. So as I mentioned, this is the place of interaction. This is the pace of deepening your engagement and really interacting with each other as well as with members of the Planet Project. We recently did a pretty significant change to our community, and it was triggered by some enhancements that were released by Mighty Networks, which is the technology on which our Planet community is based. And we think it's a great technology. It's and that's why we picked it. But right off the top, I want to say that technology does not create community. People do. Life does. And so what we think at best, technology can be an aid, especially for geographically dispersed people. Having a place where we can come together like this and interact no matter where we are in the world is a wonderful tool that simply wasn't available for most of human existence. But it is no substitute for face-to-face interactions. And as I say, we don't believe that technology creates community. Nor do we think, for that matter, that technology is the answer to our meta crisis. We think technology should serve life, and it can serve life, not the other way around. Having said that, I will introduce you to the technology here and kind of give you a quick tour. The left-hand side is what we call the left-hand navigation bar. And this is kind of the most common way and the easiest way to find your way around within the Planet community. But you can also type into this search bar and search for things here. And the area in the middle is what we call sort of the main content area. And that will change depending on what you've selected on the left-hand side. There's a set of controls at the top: feed, discovery, members, and events. These are what we call global controls. This feed will be a feed of content that comes from any of the spaces that we have down below. And I haven't told you what those are yet, so I'll tell you that in a moment. But the feed, discovery, and members and events at the top left here basically span spaces. But beneath that are a set of what we call collections. And so Planetary Alliance, Campaign, Circles, Planet Community Navigator, Learning Journeys, these are the current 5 collections that we have. And if you look closely, you'll see there's a little gray triangle. And if you click on that triangle, you will be able to see what spaces are in that collection. And I started with this one, Planet Community Navigator, because I wanted to suggest that if you're coming here for the first time, or even if you've been here for a while and find yourself getting lost, this is your community guide. This is where we're starting to put content that helps you use the tools here with the least amount of friction and frustration. And so we're continuing to add content here. The starting point for this, I'm in the discovery section of the Your Community Guide space. And so if you, for example, come in here, you'll see a brief write-up on our community culture. We tend to take a pretty light hand approach. We're not heavy-handed with a bunch of rules and regulations around how the community works. We pretty much point you at the values of the Planet Project and say, hey, if we're going to be the change we want to see, then let's act accordingly. And so we're inviting a great deal of freedom, but your own alignment with these cultural values to govern your own participation. This quick orientation to the Planet community is a good place to start. It sort of lays out, again, it kind of shows a picture of what the major regions of the screen that we just saw, right? So the left navigation bar, the search bar, the content viewing area, and something we call the top nav. And it kind of goes through what each of those do and sort of how you can just orient around. I'm going to leave you free to explore these on your own. I won't take the time to do it here, but I wanted to make you aware that this is a great place to come to, if you want to understand what are these planet spaces and collections. This kind of is a write-up that says these are the major collections and the spaces in those collections and so forth. Finding stuff in Planet community, and we're continuing to add content here. So how do you share content with others? What are these topics and hashtags and so forth? Again, I'm not going to go into the details now, but I invite you to check these out to help you, discover what's here. There's some surprising capabilities, perhaps. But the most rewarding part of this is not how to do it, but actually what's the content here. So I'm going to jump up here to the Planetary Alliance. I mentioned that we were going to be announcing that in 2023. And I also said, actually, we have our first ally tonight. And I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. But the first thing I want to do is just point out that everything you've seen here is visible to anybody on the internet. One of the recent changes we made was to make the Planet community public. And we did that to sort of reduce friction so that people can discover this and begin to connect to the content here without having to set up an account and so forth. But if you want to engage more deeply, you do need to sign in to the Planet community. And so you can do that in a variety of ways. One is you'll see there is a sign in button up in the upper right. But sometimes if you just navigate and try and do something in the community that requires you to be signed in, it will prompt you to do that. So I'm going to come down here, say, to the cultural post, and maybe you really like this. And so one of the things you can do if you really like an article is you can cheer it. And so you'll notice a heart. And so by clicking on the heart, that's how you cheer it. Well, okay. You have to be signed in to what we call interact with the content. I'm going to X out of that and do that again. You can view the content here, but if you want to cheer it, or if you want to share your own thoughts, if you want to comment on what you see, those require you to be a member of the community. So again, if I just said, oh, I want to cheer that, then it will invite you to join us. I actually already have an account. You may not be able to see this on your screen. It's pretty faint and it's pretty small, but immediately under the Join Us button is a Sign In button. And so if you already are a member and you just haven't signed in yet, this is where you can sign in to the community. Now, if you had not yet joined us, you can create an account, and that will prompt you to set up an account. But I happen to have one here, so I'm going to go ahead and sign in. So now, as a signed in member of the Planet community, Now I have the chance to say, I want to cheer that. And so you'll see that's been cheered. If you see the little heart filled in and you float over it, then you'll see this is kind of my test account. So I cheered my own chat there, but that's how it'll look. So that's how you cheer things. Click on the heart. You do need to be logged in. You can share your thoughts by adding a comment. So we encourage you to type in your own comments here. You can add pictures or GIFs. You can add emojis. Hit comment to add your comment there. So these are a couple of ways that you can interact with others in the community. Coming back to the Planetary Alliance, underneath on the left-hand side, you'll see the Planet Project is listed as one of the allies. It also says see more. Now, what you will see within a collection is all the spaces that you are currently a member of. If there are other spaces in that collection that you're not a member of, then the see more button will appear. And so if I do a see more, I discovered, active peace. So active peace is the first ally after the Planet Project to be part of the Planetary Alliance. And we're really excited to have Scott Brown join us tonight. Scott is the founder of Active Peace. And so Scott, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about Active Peace?
Well, I will, and I think it's a good time to say, Steve, what amazing work you've done on this. Really
Thank you, brother.
fabulous.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Sitting here with you all and have a presence on in the community too. I'm hoping there'll be some good cross-pollination and synergy. And I did post a welcome article in there that if you do join, I guess you have to join it to see it.
Let me interrupt you just briefly, Scott, to mention that. There are different privacy settings on Spaces. Public auto join, and there's a write-up for this. I won't go into the details, but if it says auto join, it means once you join the community, you are already automatically added as a member of that space. In the case of Active Peace, Scott wanted to make sure that anybody could join it, but you only become a member if you want to be a member. So it's very easy to join. You simply hit the Join Us button, and boom, now I am a member of Active Peace, and I can enter that space. And here we see the topics, events, the members, and so forth of the Active Peace space. So I think this is the welcome article that you mentioned there, Scott.
It is. And somebody else mentioned a mandala earlier. I have my own mandala here. That's straight out of the book Active Peace. So this is all brand new, the content here, being a part of it. I do think the welcome article kind of gives a little framing around it. I will say Active Peace, I guess the contribution, maybe some of the somewhat unique aspects of it are, I think it's really a place to talk in depth, explore in depth about root causes. Relationships is a big part of this work, and nonviolence is one of the current hashtags. Restorative justice is big in my world. So it's a big umbrella in itself. And I am just hoping that you'll join me here and engage and we'll co-create it together. I put a couple of blogs in to kind of give a little more of a introduction to myself and how I think, but I want it to be more than just me. I'm really hoping it can be a place where we can engage experiential things, the whole turning inward component of the Planet Project mission is really big here. Experiential practices. It's all about living into the truth of what I just call interbeing. So very aligned with the overall mission of the Planet Project. And it's got some, some specific interests too. So I think I'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, thank you, Scott, and welcome. Delighted to have you. The whole vision of the Planetary Alliance, we're still working out. We're still trying to sort of feel our way through what that could be. But the general concept of it is nobody owns the alliance, but together we can accomplish more than each of us individually, and that applies both at the level of individual people and also organizations. So we see organizations being members of the Planetary Alliance and sort of mutually reinforcing one another, bringing our networks together, and again, in the interest of helping people find their own path. Perhaps you're drawn here by Planet Project, but maybe you find once you're here that you really resonate more with active peace. And that's great. We're all about just matching you up with what your heart is telling you is your role in the world. So if you end up finding yourself with an allegiance, stronger calling to active peace, then we feel like we've done our job in sort of brokering that relationship. And that's kind of the whole concept behind the Planetary Alliance. And similarly, maybe there's somebody Scott's pulled into his network who once they're here finds, wow, I'm really resonating with the Planet Project, and we welcome you into the Planet Project there. So that's the concept of the Alliance. And again, thanks, Scott, for being our first ally, and we look forward to adding more through 2023. I want to quickly mention something on the right. This is called the Welcome Checklist. And we've put this to help you get into the community. We encourage you to sort of check it out. If you click on something like, if you click on community culture, it'll bring up things sort of in the order that we think it might be useful for you to read them, if you will, or do them. Some of them are actions that you take. As you do it, you get a check mark there. And so you can kind of track your way through the welcome checklist as a way to orienting yourself. This little progress bar tells me I'm 10% through the welcome checklist. Depending on your screen real estate, this welcome checklist may be obscuring what you're really trying to see. So if you're annoyed by having it there, you can collapse it by hitting this little double arrow up here in the upper right. If I click that, now it shrinks it down so it's not consuming as much of the screen. Continuing our tour, we have spaces for each of the campaigns. So I mentioned on the website we had the plastics campaign. Well, it's really in the community is where you can interact with that campaign. So on an ongoing basis, there can be further updates added to this campaign. If you feel, I think we set this up as an auto join campaign, but you can discover things in here. You can chat with other members. You can find out who the members are in this space. I want to mention the 14-day challenge, which we've also set up as a campaign, but I'll come back to that in a moment. Another collection we have are circles. And circles are both virtual or physical circles. So we do, as I mentioned earlier, think that face-to-face interaction is the richest way of establishing a deep sense of community. And we have our first local circle, which is the Boulder Planet Circle, is now active. And so we've created, even though it's a face-to-face circle, we've actually created a virtual circle here in the community. And that's so we can, for example, if I look here, I can say, well, the next in-person meeting of the Boulder Planet Circle is coming up on February 19th, all right? If I want to see who the members are, I can see the members of that Planet Circle here. If there's content, I don't think there's much in the way of content here yet, but because mostly they interact in person. But the other thing I'll point out is that this is a private circle. And that's because, if I click over here under See More, we can also see that there's another circle that we're calling the Truth Quest Mandala Circle, which is also a private circle and one that my test account is not currently a member of. And so I wanted to show this briefly so that you can see that there are different spaces have different sort of ways that you become members. Public spaces, auto join, just join the community you'll be in. Public spaces that are not auto join, like we saw with Active Peace, you're not automatically put in that space, but you just click on the join us button and you'll be in that space. For private spaces, you actually have to request access. So you'll see here that in order to get to be a member of the Truth Quest Mandala Circle, you would have to request access. And that goes through a process where the hosts basically have to approve the request. And the idea here is these are more intimate collaborations, and small scale is important. And so it may not be a fit. If you're not, for example, in the Boulder County case, if you're not living in Boulder County, you probably can't participate in the face-to-face meeting. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to be a member of that. So to summarize, public auto join, private, those are the three kinds of spaces. But we do see more circles being added. And in fact, one of the circles that we are in conversations right now to possibly add another circle is with Martin Ogle from All Careers. And I mentioned we had a wonderful event last month with great participation from local high school students, green business leaders, politicians, and part of what came out of that event was a desire for a youth mentoring program where we can hook up high school students who are looking to express their desire for a more sustainable world in any career, hook those up with business leaders that may be able to offer mentorship opportunities. And we think establishing a circle for youth in green business might be a way that the Planet Project could support that work. So I want to pause there and turn it over to Martin, if you'd want to just give us a couple of minutes on what's going on with youth and green business.
Sure. Well, this all careers idea is fairly simple, I think. It's that if we want to avoid the kinds of catastrophes that we've been talking about here tonight, our economy is going to have to be vastly different than it is. A lot of people talk about the green economy, but what is that? Well, the economy is basically the sum total of everything we do commercially and in an exchange sense in life. There are some things that fall outside of the economy, but what we do through our careers, our jobs, our work life really are the lion's share of the impacts that we have on this planet. So therefore, if we're going to go to a green economy, well, most, if not all, jobs that we do, careers that we do will need to be green. Well, right now, it's been my observation that at the high school level, where high school students are starting to think about their careers, there is not even the theme that we should be looking at things this way. That is that, hey, if you as a high school student are thinking of going into business, manufacturing, health, whatever, that you not only can, but should and would be a big part of the solution if you see how you can make your work green. And luckily, there's pretty good examples here and there of green businesses in many, many different fields. So the idea is, can we hook up business folks with high schools so that the kids can be inspired? And then we can take the step of linking environmental knowledge with all those careers over time. So I myself feel like this could be maybe if not a major missing link in our ability to create a better, healthier world for us and the rest of life. So that's it in a nutshell there.
Excellent. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, and we have a big recognition event for the All Careers contest. You can find out more about the contest on our website. And yeah, watch this space for more circles to emerge. So I think you can get a sense now of kind of what these collections and spaces are. This is the manifestation of the strategy I talked about, with the different ways that we're being a travel agent to help, the Alliance is sort of amplifying the agency and bringing together different organizations. into an alliance. The campaigns are concrete ways that people can take action. The circles are ways that we can connect in smaller groups, both virtually and locally. And this community guide is the place where you can, find out more about how this online tool works and hopefully reduce your frustration. It's also a place, by the way, if you come to this guide, feel free to share what's on your mind, right? So if you have a question, you say, hey, before you get super frustrated, please just put your question in here. If you're having a problem, probably others are as well. So go ahead and share what's on your mind. That's what this community guide is for, is to help you reduce your frustration level. If you'd like to contribute to the dialogue of the Planet Project, then please come to the Planet Project space. And that's where content about things like this, we met earlier, Andrew Hoffman earlier today, he contributed this great post about trailing the gods back home. This interview with Dr. Merton Shaw. Andrew's been great about adding lots of ideas about great content. So this is the place that you can add content, and I'll be posting something in the guide soon that basically goes into more detail about how you can add your voice to the community. But we're getting close to the end of our time, and I wanted to quickly touch on this 14-day challenge. We're going to kick it off tomorrow. Well, actually, it kicked off today. The first challenge, the first task was to join us for the shift kicking event. And so everybody here has already completed the first task. The next task is will be every day starting tomorrow. I'll send out a post that'll be a message in this space with an invitation to do a task for that day. I can give you a sneak preview of tomorrow's task, which is to share a couple of sentences about what your vision for this sustainable world that treats all life as sacred. What does that look like to you? In just a few sentences, share your vision for the world that you want to see. That will be the second task. And there will be follow-on tasks from there. Now, I happen to create this campaign as a public auto-join space. That means everybody in the Planet community is by default in this space, and therefore you will be getting a notification every day for the next 14 days. We hope you will be engaged to join the challenge. These are pretty simple tasks, and again, they're all designed to sort of help you deepen your engagement. There'll be some tasks about just, go search for a change agent, or go search for a piece of positive culture on our website, or go find an article in here that you can cheer or comment on, right? So these are just simple tasks that hopefully make you more comfortable with the technology, maybe get to know members of the community a little bit more and start to interact. So we do hope that you will accept the challenge, take the plunge, and join us. But if you're annoyed by all the messages, I do want to show that you can leave the space at any time. This is highlighted in the community guide in the article on spaces, but I wanted to quickly show you here. Every space, if you float over it on the left-hand side, you'll see the three little dots. If you click on the three little dots and go down to more, you can say leave space. And when you leave the space, you will no longer get those messages. So if you want to opt out of the 14-day challenge, that's how you do it. If you want to rejoin, all you have to do is say join us, and now you're back in. So that completes the tour. Let me just quickly come back here to see. Yeah, so here's the 14-day challenge. Daily notifications tomorrow, as I mentioned, by default. Everybody's a participant, but you can opt out. I just showed you how. Its goal is to awaken in you possibilities for how you can discover ways that you can participate in this huge opportunity, this unprecedented opportunity that we face to participate in cultural transformation. It'll help you discover change agents you didn't know exist, feel more comfortable and capable with the Planet Project tools, begin to connect in the Planet movement, and help spread the word. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. for being part of the planet movement. And I'm going to stop this share and just see if there's any final comments or questions before we close.
Great job, Steve.
Amazing, Steve.
Yeah, great presentation.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Right.
thank you. Well, this,
So,
I hope you feel motivated to interact. What's that, Meredith?
bravo, bro.
Thank you, sis.
Right now, I
Yeah.
feel motivated to take a nap, but I'll get motivated to move forward soon.
Very good. Yes, I realize
Yeah.
it's late for some folks, and
No, no,
yeah.
it's just overwhelming, but it's awesome. So
Yeah.
very
We will,
exciting.
as I mentioned, we did record it, so we'll make the recording available. I know for some of the tour things, I went through it too quickly for, I didn't expect you to memorize everything I went through. You can come back and review the recording or go to your community guide. There's lots of, you can read those at your own pace, but there's lots of details in there about how you do different things within the community.
So here's my hope for the future, that one day when we do one of these, we see lots of really young faces
Yes.
and
Thank
maybe
you
a
for
few
that.
more women.
Yeah. It might not hurt to have better representation of Indigenous and people of color as well.
But I
Yes.
will sort of agree with you, Cheryl. We need the young people.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think Martin and I are on the same page with that, and I'm going to connect with him, see what he's got going.
Well,
Totally.
there's always the perspective of my 23-year-old son who told me last week, no offense, Dad, but our generation just wants to solve our problems our own way. So as soon as all you guys die out, we'll get going.
No offense.
And we
Yeah.
hope
I
that's
wait,
right.
I wait.
I don't know, I'm well on the way to helping him out.
Hey, it's still a great group here. Thank you.
It is,
Very
absolutely.
good,
Awesome.
Scott. Yeah.
You all are the ones that will inspire the next generation to do it their own way, Eric.
Right.
Yeah, we need their independent thinking. We need them to take the lead and do it their own way. We also think there are opportunities for intergenerational wisdom.
Absolutely.
And so that's
After all, it's a planetary experience.
indeed.
Not only does it include people, animals, fauna, and everything else, it includes multi-generational participation.
Very
Some
good.
people do like mentors also.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Maybe someday they'll figure out
Hello.
that we actually set up the path for them.
Definitely.
On a side note, all Indigenous societies recognize the wisdom of elders. Be
Mhm.
closer to death than having a whole lifetime to survey.
Right.
Yep, that's very true.
Excellent. Excellent. Roger, I would invite you to give us a closing word if you feel moved to do so.
Well, Steve put this all together tonight, and I'm just really overwhelmed, and it's so great what you've done, and the planet community is his, and we've got a great team. A long ways to go. We have very big vision, and these are just the first baby steps. And like Steve says, we don't have all the answer. We're trying to convene a great unification all over the planet. So hope you'll stay with us and be part of it.
We need your engagement. So thank you, Roger, and thank you everyone for joining tonight. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
See you all.
Cheers,
Good night,
folks.
everybody.
Good
Good
night.
being with you. Thanks, Steve. Brilliant job.